Well, and I see that in their opposition to it, it's not just the Mass that they're squeezing out, but really all of tradition. So one of the things that I have found most sinister, especially as, let's say, a father with children, we all know that we want to pass on the life of faith to our children, and for that you need all the sacraments. Things like confirmation or baptism, and obviously catechism, or even things at the end of your life like extreme unction. And so I hear that a lot of what's happening now, even in the cases where a Latin Mass might still be allowed, they're saying, but no confirmations, no baptisms. And then especially they're saying, and no ordinations. You can't use the pontifical, which contains confirmation and holy orders. So that's, I think, also part of the end strategy, that if they take out the sacraments, they take out the catechetical instruction, and they even reduce parish life. We don't want it at parishes. It's like all you come is some strange place where you get to visit every now and then and go to a Mass, but you don't have the community life and everything else that supports a Catholic life. They're hoping that way they can squeeze it. And so I guess, you can comment on that, but my real final question to each of you is then what you advise the laity to do. What are the laity to do? Some people are wondering, are we going back to the catacombs? Do we create priest holes? How do we hold on to this? And so any recommendations you might also have for the lay faithful who are watching?
Then just for priests, I think, see the line has been crossed when they say you can't do traditional baptisms. If your bishop says that to you, it's too much. So a lot of priests are keeping their head down, trying to be tactical, trying to think, it might be a better future under a Catholic pope, and we'll try and wait out until then. If you're told as a priest by your bishop you can't do a traditional wedding or you can't do a traditional baptism, go ahead and do it and see what happens. The bishop needs to be woken up from this tyranny, and you might be a sacrificial lamb. Maybe it's going to give you a hard time. Maybe it's going to suspend you. For how long? 3 months? 3 years? Who knows? But if that happens to multiple priests in that diocese, the bishop is going to start realizing this is a war we don't need. Why on earth, as a bishop, am I trying to war against the glory of traditional baptism with all the exorcisms in it? Is it any wonder Satanism is on the rise? So priests, if you keep your head down, that's on record. If you protest now, that's on record. So we will have a Catholic Pope who will restore tradition, but it's not a matter of waiting for it. We need to make it happen. And for the faithful, I think their best way to make it happen, don't say the traditional Mass is too far away from me, I can't get to it. Make sure you go for Holy Week to a traditional Triduum, whatever it takes. Unless you're literally housebound, you can book a flight, book a hotel, take the whole family, spend 5 days near a Triduum so you can attend the whole thing. And if you're closer to traditional Mass, then go on the major feasts, Corpus Christi, Assumption, Pentecost, and if you can, go every Sunday. And if it's what you're doing anyway, go every day. But don't say, I can't go. You can get to the traditional Triduum, and if we don't, we will deservedly lose everything. If we don't care about Easter, then it's over.
I don't think I'd say anything much different from what Father Maudsley said. I think I would just say, look, it's a question of, I think, being faithful. We have to do our best to be faithful no matter what. And sometimes we give too much weight to worldly criteria. The priest thinking like, well, how's my bishop going to react? How's this going to, what does my future look like? How am I going to be able to survive, in terms of, I don't know, salary, pensions, health insurance, things like that. And even the faithful, I say, worldly concerns, thinking, well, it's going to be too far. Like, I can't get to the Latin Mass now. They've canceled those that are nearby. I'm short on funds. Any number of different, difficulties that may come up in trying to be faithful to the Latin Mass and faithful to, basically, I would say faithful to Christ and faithful to our Catholic religion. So I would just say, look, we have to do our very best to be faithful and be ready for persecution. And persecution comes in many forms. You may be strapped more financially. You may have to give up certain things. That applies also to the priests. You may have less friends. You may have to, again, travel more. But I think we really have to put our faith and trust in God and in our Catholic religion, and know that if our motives are pure and if what we do for the glory of God and for the love of our faith and for the love of the church, for the love of the Holy Father. I mean, like Father Muzzi's saying, you know, praying and waiting for the day that we get a Catholic Pope. You know, God's faithful and he's going to respond. And a lot of times we see those blessings. I mean, I see them in my own life as a priest. I mean, in the decisions that I also had to make in order to be faithful to the traditional Latin Mass and faithful to Catholic doctrine. I mean, I underwent plenty of, like, let's say, persecutions and difficulties and struggles. But as I look back, you know, there are also many, many, many blessings. And so it'll happen for each priest and each one of the faithful because God is God, and I mean, and He's faithful. I mean, He's faithful. I mean, He's gonna punish those that punish sins and reward the just. Punish the sinners, reward the just.
No, I echo that as well too, Father. That I like that you mentioned persecution. I think it's coming to all of us in various ways. But God is, I like to say, God is never outdone in generosity. It's good to be Catholic. God's never outdone in generosity. And so if you're willing to sacrifice and suffer some persecution for Him, He will reward you far more abundantly than you can even envision or imagine.
And may we never forget that persecution is also a special grace. I mean, if you get persecuted, it's a special grace that God's giving you so that you can, you know, again, grow in your love for Him, you know, rid yourself more of the spirit of the world. Yeah.
Now, the one thing, Father, maybe if I could get you to comment on this, because the one thing I did notice that you didn't mention, and that's what I tell most people, I hear a lot of the bishops who are going after the priests saying, well, you're harming unity. And they even cite a canon that says, you know, you're going against unity. And I say, yes, but metaphysically, theologically, philosophically, unity can only be found in the truth. Therefore, prior to unity, you must have truth. We only find unity in the truth. And I don't hear people talking about harming the truth or, you know, going against the truth. And so I always tell people, stand fast in the tradition. I think that's scriptural. And Father, you might remember what passage is, but you know, we know we have to stand fast in the truth. And so I tell laity, do your best to stand fast in the truth, come what may, as well as living the message of Fatima, right? You pray your rosary, you wear your bronze scapular, you practice the first sat if you can, offer prayer and penance, but live that message, stand in the truth, and then come what may, you suffer this persecution, and you know, God's got to sort it out.
Yeah, at the traditional Mass, you know you're in unity with all the saints and generations that have gone before. So there's the unity. You're united with heaven and the communion of saints.
The church triumphant, the church suffering.
Exactly.
Right, because that's the real unity with heaven.
Yeah. So there's no doubt there. And the hope we can have, the traditional Mass will be restored, the pre-55. No one can obstruct that. It will be acknowledged, I believe, by Rome. And after this, the church will never, ever surrender her liturgy again. Never be tempted to tamper with it. Because when someone reckons they have a genius idea, people will point to this time and say, you remember what happened after Paul VI and Bergoglio? You want that again? Start tweaking the liturgy.